Far from an easy campaign from Ivory Coast, they finally found a way to win the African Cup of Nations. In this video, we'll be talking about what did Nigeria do wrong in that game. Does the manager deserve to be sacked? Should a top player like Victor Osimhen carry the team by himself? Does Ivory Coast deserve to win? Without further ado, let's get started. Guys, listen, you watched the final yesterday. What do you think of the game?
Well, personally, I'll start. I think the game was very good. I think it was very entertaining. Of course, first few minutes, it looked like both teams, or first 25 minutes, it looked like both teams were trying to settle into the game a bit more. Trying to get their way, find out how they need to play to win the game, which I think Ivory Coast overall did better well. I think Ivory Coast, they made Nigeria nervous in the final. They were roughing them up, which Nigeria didn't like. Some players like Osimhen, of course, you saw saying there's an elbow in the back of the head. Nigeria got wound up, which is why I think Ivory Coast were able to control the game.
On the paper, Nigeria has a better squad, and my concern is why did they start so slow?
I think further to the point, I think I'm in maybe a more drastic. Comparing both teams together, I've said that I've complained about it multiple times. But first off, Ivory Coast were by far the better team.
Yeah.
It wasn't so much of a competition against the run of play we've scored with the corner, which is always something good, and that's great. But watching the game like that, it's just a ticking time bomb as to when the first one goes in. And if that game had carried on any longer, Ivory Coast would have put a few past us, definitely. So for me, I don't see how Nigeria in that final did not alter their game plan early enough to deal with that and then be able to engage as a team later on. We've had an injured Victor Osimhen. He's had a patchy campaign compared to his previous form. He scored 31 in 30 goals last season.
Which is great.
He's the best striker in the world.
Which is wonderful.
He's the best striker in the
world.
world.
Don't get there. I don't think he's there right now.
But in this campaign, it's been patchy start and stop. He still had a decent return.
Yeah.
I mean, 18-18 is not bad for his campaign this season.
Yeah.
But for Nigeria, for example, this year he scored 1 in 6 goals, which is by far lower than he's ever done before.
That's the point.
Exactly.
That's the point. For a central forward of that magnitude, you have to score goals.
Well, he's not getting fit.
No, but look, he's touted around 130 million release clause for me. Now, a 100 million player should be able to carry that team and get a result. Mitrovic does it for Serbia, right? Mitrovic is a 30 million pound player.
Serbia have won what?
Nothing, but what Nigeria won?
No, but we got to the final. That's my point. Mitrovic is not. What do you mean by carried? He's carried them to where?
Qualification and then into the groups, and they're not a good team.
My point, anyways, is Nigeria have not fed Osimhen, and it's an injured Osimhen. He's been injured and not moving properly all tournament. That because him on the pitch, as you said, because of his pedigree and how much he's worth, him being on the pitch, to me and my personal opinion, in that state as he is right now, is actually negative for the team.
Yes.
And the overall game of every single player playing in professional footballers playing 80-yard balls to Osimhen, looping it 500 meters in the air for him to beat 3 central defenders on his own to control and go score is absolutely the most ridiculous thing I've seen, for a long time at this sort of level of football, in my opinion. An injured Osimhen at that, right?
Yeah.
That's it.
But are you trying to put blame on the rest of the team except Osimhen?
The entire team was tragic. However, the route tactic of lumping the ball to Osimhen was also mentally insane. As professional footballers who can play football, who can pass, who can hold the ball, we've all seen Iwobi day in, day out.
Yeah.
We've seen him get on the ball. Sherry made him look like he was a piece of pea around the pitch. And that to me was my man of the match, by the way, because he controlled that game and pinned Nigeria back. Him and Simon, not Simon for Nigeria, Simon for Ivory Coast turned Ola into a fullback that's back in his primary school days. Both of them really, really brought the game in terms of a footballing ability. to them. I don't know what you guys think as well, but that's my. I have more to rant on, but I'll slow it down for now. But yeah, that's my start.
Did you have a chance to watch the group stage game, Nigeria against Ivory Coast?
No, I actually missed that game.
You missed that game?
Yeah, go on.
So my concern is, how come they went from a wonderful game, a great game, like they did on a group stage, to what we saw yesterday? Because what we saw yesterday was awful, right? That wasn't my expectation. I expect a little bit more from Nigeria, right? Like I mentioned earlier, on paper they look superb, but I still don't get it. I don't know why. Don't you think maybe the manager should take a blame?
That's where I'm pointing the finger for Nigeria. I think the manager, the fact at half time there was nothing changed, I think that's a disgrace. Because that first half, like, Ivory Coast dominated for me. They kept the ball, they were in control, there was no concern for them. And the manager, at that point, he has to change something. Maybe it's a substitute, maybe it's a tactical change, a change of shape. Something has to change. You can't continue like that. Like Mookie said earlier, if they played another 40 minutes, could have been 4-1, 5-1 to Ivory Coast. And it was just a ticking time bomb. And that's where, like...
After 30 minutes, Ivory Coast was in control of the game. I mean, you thought it was boys against men.
Yeah.
After the first 30 minutes.
Yeah.
And Afcon scored the goal, and it changed the whole picture. And Nigeria took control of the game again. So what happened?
I don't think they took control though. I think.
Ivory Coast, sorry, my bad. Ivory Coast took control of the game again. Even after the goal.
The goal was just a blip. The goal was like, let's ignore that. Let's go back to teaching these kids how to play football.
Back to the goal though, I was going to say, when Nigeria got the goal, normally you see in other games, when they get the first goal, they're normally winning games by 1-0 all the time. And with players like Osimhen on the pitch, you expect them to score 3, maybe 4 a game. But as Mookie said, when you're injured, it's very hard to make an impact on the team because you're trying to, you're the team star player. So if the ball gets you, there's so much pressure on him to perform at a big stage like the African Cup of Nations for a country. If he's injured, he can't play at 100%. Mookie said earlier as well, he hasn't been 100% for Napoli this season.
I don't think he was the only player injured.
He's not the only one.
Haller was injured.
He's not the only one.
So he wasn't the only player. You can't.
He's not the only one. He's not the only one. But when you look at the impact he's made for Nigeria in the past and for Napoli in the past, when Osimhen's fully fit, you expect him to be scoring 2 goals a game. When he's not fully fit, and plus, there's no one really creating in that Nigeria team. They like to go down the middle all the time. No, so when they go down the middle...
You can't say there's no one to create something that...
There's players there to create, but they're not creating. If they were creating chances, there'd be more goals. The reason why Nigeria aren't scoring, or they didn't score enough in the tournament, because every single goal that they scored either came from when the ball got crossed in to Osimhen, he missed it, and Lookman was there. If you take... What Ivory Coast did very well yesterday, they restricted getting the ball to Lookman and on a wide. So all Nigeria had to do was pass to Osimhen. And if they couldn't do that properly, there was no chance of them winning the game. Like Mookie said, the corner was a blip for Ivory Coast. That's why they scored. Overall in the game, if you're restricting the wingers, because they've been impactful this season, Lookman's their top goal scorer in the competition. The other wingers are very creative. Ola Aina likes to do the overlap as well. So if you're restricting him, and Adingra, by the way, quality yesterday. He looked. Aina looked like he made him look like a kid. It was embarrassing. But when you restrict Aina going down that overlap and restrict Lookman, Nigeria have one way of playing, and that's just to find Osimhen. And they can't do that
with an 80-yard ball.
If they can't do that, it's never going to work.
But this is why I said earlier. Don't you think the manager should take a blame?
I agree. I think. After they scored the first goal, Nigeria, the corner, I think they should have made another change, because we've seen in the tournament already with Nigeria, they get a first goal and they like to defend a lot. I think in the final with this Ivory Coast team, I said it before the final, if Nigeria are to win this competition in 90 minutes, they have to score more than 1 in 90. They have to. And when the first goal went in, my first reaction was, okay, I think Nigeria now, if the manager changes something, they're winning the tournament. What he didn't do, he kept it the same way, and normally when a team scores, you expect them to gain momentum, get control, but it went fully back the opposite direction to what we what the game happened before.
Yeah.
Before they even scored, it was all Ivory Coast after the goal. There's no changes. There's no change in tactics.
Thank you. Let's talk about tactics. The Nigerian team was playing with one central forward, which is Victor Osimhen, right? But where the Ivory Coast team did extremely well was to put Seri in front of Osimhen, which means he has no chance to touch the ball. And the only ball he could have probably have a chance to play was the overhead ball, which wasn't good enough because a ball in the air is a 50-50 ball. It belongs to anyone, right? But I think maybe, I don't think the manager could have probably think about it earlier and just readjust the way they were playing. And
I mean, for me, I think top managers, like, a lot of them don't do it because it hurts their ego, but there's nothing wrong with making a change in 25 minutes. If what you've set out isn't happening, you know, what you've trained for all week, the tactics, the team, the starting team, the bench, if it's not going as you've planned, then there's nothing wrong with making a substitution or changing a shape. It hurts the ego a bit because it's sort of saying that I was wrong and I shouldn't have done this tactic or this team. But if it works for the victory, there's no shame. We've seen all the top managers do it. Mourinho, Guardiola. It's like subbing off a sub. There's no shame.
I mean, I'm going to take us all famously back to was it November, December time when France almost were out of it completely after 22 and a half minutes. Completely out of that game, and straight away 2 substitutions made.
straight away.
It wasn't even a moment of hesitation because that's what top managers do. They can see when a game has gone out of the picture, right? You did not need to be someone who's ever watched football for a long time to watch that game and see 15 minutes in.
You got to change. You have to change. You have something has to be done.
15 minutes in, again, detaching Osimhen from the rest of the pitch for a second, looking at other 4 or 5 midfielders, it was not even like a capability or ability for them to get on the pitch. On top of that, as I probably mentioned before to Yamel, is the pitch was cut up. It was bubbling. Let's not. I'm not going to use exogenous factors such as that to say, oh, that was there. But once you see a pitch and everything like that, you have to be like, look, we have a different game to play here, right? We have to adjust to what's in front of us and what we're playing with at the moment. And our midfielders, all of them, from Iwobi to Lukman to Simon, to Chukwueze, Simon came on after for him, to everyone else who played on that pitch. I look at them and say, like, as well as the coach, it's absolutely shameful from every single one of those players at the level of football we've known them to play a game like that. Absolutely a disgrace. There was nobody providing the short options properly. There was no one providing a proper. You said a long ball. No one played the long ball.
Even the long ball wasn't enough.
It wasn't a long ball. It was a
vertical.
It was a vertical ball.
It was trying to get rid of the ball.
Exactly. It was really, really ridiculous. Again, the pitch was cut up, so I saw some of them hiding, like, I'm going to miss a touch here. We'll see our fullbacks maybe sometimes be able to get some space. It's in their half. They're looking at putting to Osimhen. You've got to get that to feet. Every centre midfielder at top level, you've got to come and collect that to feet. I don't care if it bobbles off your shin. You've got to get that to feet every single time and try to change the game. And we saw Sherry do brilliantly, I'm sure times in his half, where he brought that ball near his goal line and he controlled that game. He made 1 or 2 or 3 passes that relieved them out of pressure all the time. Is it the experience?
He's 36 years old.
Absolutely. But what he did in that team, and the way he kept Nigeria pinned down, he just kept recycling ball left to right, controlling the game every single time, shielding Osimhen on that pass, keeping it simple. Even on that pitch, he didn't care. He said, we're here to play some real football, and we will. Nigeria had no intention of playing any type of football that day.
I agree with you. But at the same time, we can't, at this level, you can't put the blame on the pitch, right? Remember, 75% of those guys grew up in Africa.
Exactly.
And you know, this is like, a world-class stadium. So we can't start putting the blame on, maybe the pitch wasn't good enough, maybe the ref. No, we just have to accept that, listen, they didn't do well. They were not good enough, and someone you take a blame. And do you think that manager should get sacked or he should keep his job?
For me, I've got to say sacked. I think, like Mookie said, in the first half, the fact he didn't make no changes, he didn't accept what he's done wrong. I think someone should be held accountable, and the players we've seen individually, they've got the talent. So we can't say Osimhen's rubbish or Iwobi's rubbish or Lukman's rubbish. That's false. The manager didn't make a change, and for me, he should be accountable. And If this was Chelsea and it was Roman Abramovich, at half time he would have been gone. He would have been gone at half time. They would have got someone else in because it was.
But that's football, right? You sign in and you sign out.
Exactly. Yeah. You come and go. Like the team will always remain, but managers are there. They'll come and go until there's someone better, and they'll bring someone better. I don't
That's
think
for
it'll be
sure.
hard.
No, I fully agree with what Pete said in the final. I don't think it's just in the final. I think the whole tournament, Nigeria would, even though they're winning games by 1-0.
But they made it to the final.
They made it to the final, but at the same time, they make it to the final because the teams that they were playing, they didn't have enough quality to beat Nigeria. When you look at
they beat Ivory Coast.
They beat Ivory Coast in the group stage.
Yeah.
Here's the thing with Ivory Coast in the group stage. It's been held in their country.
Yeah.
So immediately, everyone's looking at that group going, right, the top 2 teams should be Nigeria or Ivory Coast, regardless. That's so much pressure on that team to perform in front of their fans in a group with knowing that they've got the Super Eagles with them. They're going to be going into a group saying, right, we don't just want to get second best to Nigeria, we want to get the best team in the group. The fact they didn't do that and the fact they came third, that's down to pressure. When you look at Nigeria in the whole group stage games, they were winning group stage games 1-0.
Yeah.
You know, they drew 1-1 in one games. In the knockout stages, it was 1-0, 1-0. Only until South Africa, where they had a bit of quality and a bit of pace in them, did they struggle a little bit, and that went to penalties.
Yeah.
So the whole tournament, when you look at Nigeria, the way they play, with the quality they have, they should not be getting 1 goal and just sitting back and relaxing on results. They cannot do that.
I think maybe we've looked, a lot of managers have maybe looked at managers like Gareth Southgate.
Yeah.
Who's got a similar tournament strategy.
Yeah.
Which is, it's tournament football.
Yeah.
Get a goal,
sit back,
and control the game.
But even the Italian national team does the same.
Yeah, exactly. So control the game. Agreed.
They don't score a lot of goals, but they found a way.
But with Italy though, in Italy they play defensive football, so it's better for them. It's their culture to get a goal and then sit back and defend.
Yeah.
We look at teams like in England. In England, you need more than a goal to win a game. So the quality we have in that England squad, if we get a goal, we should be getting 2, 3. Players like Harry Kane, Sancho when he gets called up, with a fully fit Sancho and a former Sancho, Sterling when he's in form,
Saka.
Rashford, Saka,
Foden
as
Maddison.
well. Madison, Rice kitchen principles, Trent. The fact we're getting 1 goal a game and then sitting back and defending, it's not good enough, because in England that's not the culture, whereas in Italy they can sit back and hold a 1-0 because that's their culture. They know how to defend, whereas other nations, like for example England, you look at Germany for example, when Germany play, they might go 1-0 down, but you know they can score 2, they can score 3. With England, if England are losing a game, you're looking at the England team going, with Southgate, I don't really know if we can get a second goal after we get a first, even if we do get that first.
Victor Osimhen, you mentioned earlier that he was injured. How will you rate him?
The best player in the world. I told you already.
Based on the African Cup of Nations.
He's injured. What do you want from him?
He wasn't the only player injured. We saw Sebastian
Haller got how many cross? Should we look at
how many games did he play and how many goals did he score?
Haller
compared to Victor.
Let's look at if it's a stat. I hope you have the stats board. Put it on afterwards. Can we look at crosses into each player?
No, let's focus on goals because that's what they get paid for, right?
But how can someone score if they don't have
That's what they get paid for.
How can they score if they don't have the ball? How can you score if you don't have the ball? If you have Lionel Messi in your team and you don't pass him the ball, what is he meant to do?
But I found that the problem is Nigerians found a way to get to the final, which means they were doing something right.
Yeah.
No,
they were scoring goals.
They
were winning games.
Again?
But still, the guy didn't score. I mean, he's a good player. I have nothing against him. But still, the guy didn't score enough goals.
If I look back at those highlights, or anyone watched those games, and you showed me Osimhen missing or shying away from chances, if there were crosses like he was making the wrong type of runs, if there were one-on-ones, if there were balls in around the box that he was hitting and he was missing, I will hold my hands up and say that Osimhen did not play to his standard, right? But the fact that I don't think you could show me one of those that wasn't a quarter chance even of a ball looped up in the air that he's had to somehow jump against 2 other 6'5" big black African defenders to win, which is nothing compared to his. Well, let's not joke about Italian football right now. But if we say that was the game, I would hold my hands up, and we can all, as all football watchers, we know. Like, would have said that. I would have said, Osimhen should do better. Yeah. But what's he going to do? Go get the ball right back and then beat 8 men because he's who? I mean, who even does that?
Hazard done it.
Thank you.
Hazard done it for Chelsea multiple
Thank
years.
you.
Are we
That was the point.
Are we
That was
comparing
the
Hazard
point.
to Osimhen?
It's just saying the top player can do it.
We're saying
my
that
point-
Osimhen is of Hazard level, just to confirm.
No. Because you said earlier he's a world class player, right?
You said he's the best in the world.
My next point was, should Victor take more responsibility and say, okay, I don't have enough ball. Maybe I should take this game as my own game. We saw quality players like Samuel Eto'o, like Drogba. Winning games.
I mean,
but,
every final.
Drogba
Yeah.
won games and finals on his own,
Yeah.
and I completely agree with you.
So-
I've seen him make goals out of nothing.
Yeah,
Exactly.
Yeah,
Yeah, that was my
Unfortunately, and I'll say this, the nothingness Drogba was getting into. I use, for example, one of those Tottenham games where he gets a long ball to his chest, turns, spins a left foot top right corner. I think you remember that goal in Wembley, right?
Yeah.
That ball came to
But
Drogba's
that's the
chest.
difference. That's the difference,
That
right?
ball came to Drogba's chest. It didn't go 80 yards to the corner and like him having to jump 50 yards in the air. He was around a team which, even if it was a more difficult game, right? He had some sort of something to eat or to feed off. Whereas Nigeria, not once did I say, oh, that ball looks enticing enough for Osimhen to make something happen, right? The ball is 50 yards to his right or 30 yards to his left, and it's gone that high. That's not professional football. That's not.
I understand. Again, I often say when we play football, I often say to players, you need data, right? Because without data, you can't process anything, right? Don't you think straight from the get-go, you should have thought, okay, I don't have enough football, right? They're not feeding me as I want to be fed. Maybe I should drop to the middle and drag those guys a little bit forwards, or take a little bit more action.
Agreed, but that's again once more.
But that's the difference between him and Drogba, right?
But Drogba would never have dropped into the centre mid in that game. Once more, even Drogba was probably better on the ball than Osimhen in probably a centre mid or deeper position. But we've watched Osimhen for years now. Show me one game that his first touch was not within 1 yard of the 18-yard box. That he's playing his game to the best of his ability, to the way he knows how to play, right?
Yeah.
If he can't play that game,
But as a central forward, you have to be. For a player, for that level, you have to be a little bit more creative, right? Or am I?
Think about it. He's touted around 100 million. He should be able to drop a bit deeper, receive the ball, even if it's just to.
Anthony's worth almost 100 million. Are we really being realistic? So you guys' solution, just let me get this clear, is that Victor Osimhen should have dropped deep to get the ball. That's what you guys are saying.
He should have done a little bit more.
I agree. He should have done a little bit
he
more.
should have
But
done
at the
a little
same
bit more.
time,
It was nowhere to be found on the pitch. I wasn't sure if it was.
He was chasing 80 yards.
But then maybe it was doing the wrong run.
How can you run for a ball that's not even close to you? How do you
He needed to readjust.
I don't think he needs to readjust. I think the footballers on the pitch need to pass a ball better. Need to give him some sort of reasonable service for me to even say that it didn't work.
Okay.
For us to say that it didn't work, show me the highlights. Show me one ball that was even we can say, oh yeah, that was a decent ball into him, or a good shaped looking ball into him, or in and around his area or his vicinity that he could have dealt with. However, every single time, it was beyond pitiful, and that's what we all saw that day. And I'm starting to be corrected.
Yeah.
Go back to his house, show me one ball, just one ball, where we're like, oh, that was a decent shaping ball, or maybe the defenders are beating him, or he's not controlling. It wasn't that. That was not.
I just see it in a way even when you play at any level. For example, if I'm a right back and he's against me, he's a winger on the other team, and he's having no joy against me. We're 70 minutes in. Every time he gets the ball, I've taken it off him. He's not having a sniff. He should change his game.
Yeah.
Because he's not beating me. You can only
agreed,
go.
but you said every time he gets the ball. That's my point right there. Every time he gets the ball.
Yeah.
If we can say that, that's fine. But go back to those highlights. Show me once, where he got the ball.
On the last transfer window, there was a lot of rumor of Victor moving to England, or Will you spend 100 million on him?
I'm a Chelsea fan, and we've been burned by a lot of strikers. You know, we've had Falcao, Higuain, Morata. Like, you know, what I mean, the list is going. Torres. Like, it doesn't matter if you go 1 year back or 10 years back.
Yeah.
Lukaku, prime example. The thing is, for me, the Italian league, everyone can score there.
Yeah.
We've seen Quagliarella used to get 25 goals a season,
agreed.
even when he was 34 years old.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? And that's why I'd be cautious to even go for him, especially for that price tag. And like you said, he is just a penalty box striker.
Yep.
So if he can't offer anything else, does it make sense to invest that money, 100 million, 100 plus even, into a striker?
That's a lot of money.
It's a huge amount
That's
of money.
a lot of money.
To someone who's only going to work in the penalty box. If you're a team like Man City, with Haaland, he doesn't need to play much football because he gets every angle. He's getting service from the right, from the left, from De Bruyne in the middle, from Rodri, wherever he gets the service. But will Chelsea create that? I don't think so.
Arsenal?
Osimhen and Arsenal is a 35 goals season score.
No, do you know?
So you think so?
No one can say. No,
I think so.
No,
Yeah?
I think.
I also think when you're back to what you said with Chelsea, you see Chelsea have spent God knows how much on rubbish strikers in the past, you know, and I've loved it as a Fulham fan, really. So it's just quite good. But I think when you look at a player, that's any type of player, 100 million. They don't need to be a striker. They could be a defender or midfielder. If they're worth that much, and say for example, if Arsenal bought him, if Arsenal bought Osimhen, they have to play around Osimhen. They have to make their style of play to fit him. They have to make everything about him. Just for example, what Chelsea tried to do with Lukaku, it didn't work because he didn't want to do that. Whereas I think with Osimhen, you look at Napoli. I think Napoli last season they made it all about Osimhen. They tried to get him the ball as quick as possible in the best amount of space as possible, and they knew, right, if we get him firing, if we get him the ball in the box where he wants it, he can score goals. If he comes to the Premier League, of course it's different because he might not get that much space, but if the teams, especially the quality teams, look at Liverpool, Man City, well, they don't need him, but you know, say if Haaland left, I think Osimhen's the perfect replacement.
Yes.
They can just do the same thing they did with Haaland, with Osimhen, play it around him. I think when you look at a player, any player worth 100 million, if you buy him in, you have to build a team around him, I think.
Which can be a problem, right?
It can be a problem, but at the same time, I think if that player is good enough to do it, and they're willing to do it, then I think it'd be good for any team, especially with Osimhen, because we know Osimhen, he can score 30 goals a season in any league. That is a given fact. Yes, the Italian league isn't as good as other leagues, but you still need to be a quality player to be scoring 30 plus in any division. And you look at Italy, they defend. Every team in that league defends really, really well.
Yes.
So if you're scoring 30 plus goal in that league, you're a world-class striker.
Yeah, but I think the problem is a cultural difference in terms of football.
Yeah.
Right? If you come to England, it's
completely different.
It's another story.
It's a lot quicker, more physical. But at the same time, I think he may also need to change up his game. But, you know, for Napoli, maybe not for Nigeria in the Afcon, but for Napoli, we've seen that last season when things weren't working, he was able to
He's struggling in Afcon.
He did struggle, but at the same time, as what Mookie said, he was carrying an injury. But you look at last season, when Napoli, there was a time when Napoli, they won the league last season, but there was a time, Christmas time, I think they played 12 games, won 4 of them. I think they got 2 draws and lost the rest. They were struggling, so Osimhen had to change the way he played after Christmas because teams found out how Napoli were playing. They found out how Osimhen was playing, and then when Osimhen changed the way he played, he scored more goals after the change than he did before the change. So I think Osimhen he's a type of player that will change if he needs to. If he realises he needs to change now, he'll change. I think any top striker would do the same thing.
I think like obviously I've made a couple of jokes calling us the best player in the world. As a Nigerian, seeing a Nigerian who is as elite at that level in terms of like being a number 9, who is a goal scorer and is the name the headline grabber. It's always exciting. I think it's really, really exciting having him around and his ability to score goals. Will he do well in the Premier League? You clearly said, Pete, like, there's been so many big strikers that have come to the Premier League and failed, right? I will be biased anything I say with Osimhen, so please understand that for that. I personally think from the football I've seen and a general team player, I've seen play with the way he does for Napoli. He's a player that, even if he's not scoring goals, will be a big addition to any team long term. And he reminds me of Giroud, actually, in terms of like when he's not like even in amongst the goals, the way he supports his team, his teammates, his flick on, his layoffs.
He's a team player.
It's a very much a team player.
Yeah,
so I think he will add value to any team that actually plays football. Which goes back to Nigeria, and why it's not adding value to them recently is because they are not playing any football. So you have to play football to score in a football match. It's very actually ridiculous. Like if you put the ball on the floor and you play football with your feet, you score goals. I don't think the Nigerian team understood.
They don't understand football.
Understood that concept of the game on that day, and I personally think there needs to be an overhaul of 80% of that team, and tell them like that's not how you play for a country. Or if we say it's a coach problem, fine. Replace the coach. If they're doing the same thing, overhaul them. Bring players in that will play football under that pressure in those conditions, and then they will play a really good game. And that's my personal opinion.
Listen. Ivory Coast came from a long way to get to the final. So, what really happened? From almost being out of the competition in a group stage to be a winner of the African Cup of Nations.
I think
what
the
happened?
group stage fired them up a bit. I think them failing in their own country in a group, I think really gave them, they're like, because they knew going into it, the four third best teams went through to the round of 16s, and I think they knew. I think if they didn't perform well in the groups, if they just managed to be, even if it wasn't good for them, if they managed to be in that best four third place teams, with the backing they had in the tournament, we saw in the final, pretty much everyone in the stadium was wearing orange.
It was electric.
Electric. That's one of the best atmospheres I've seen so far at any game. It gave them a kick, of course. So when you're playing in your own country, you've seen in the World Cup sometimes. South Africa had they got eliminated, but they performed pretty decently in the 2010 World Cup. Yeah. But they may not have quality, but they were in every single game. You saw that. Yeah. Same with England in the Euros.
They have a good, solid team.
A solid team, exactly. They play as a team. Same with England as the Euros when we lost to Italy, but the fans when we played in England supported us. I think most of the games where England played were in England. I think they were all at Wembley. The majority of the games were in Wembley. So when they go through, when they see, okay, right, we're one of the four best third place teams. We have to now go out and prove why we are who people say we are. We're a team that should be taken seriously. The quality we have, we should be able to beat any team in this competition. And I think them losing those games in the group stages made them realise something with themselves, of saying this isn't right, and we need to prove not just to the fans but to ourselves that we belong on the stage. And I think they did that very well.
Agreed.
Yeah?
Agreed. I think that's...
Don't you think that the fact that Ivory Coast changed their manager has something to do with that?
Yeah, I agree. I think when you look at the group
when
stages,
they struggled on the group stage, they didn't waste any time. They just thought, listen, we have to do something. And the guy was gone.
Look, we've seen that when Chelsea won the Champions League. Sorry to go back to Chelsea. I'm a Chelsea fan, so it's what I recall. We sacked Di Matteo. No, we sacked Andre Villas-Boas after a rocky start. It wasn't looking good, and then we had...
But he was a decent manager, though.
He wasn't terrible. I mean, he's better than now. Do you know what I mean? But that aside, right, we sacked him, we brought in an interim, and we went on to win the Champions League. If we didn't make that change, what happens? Nothing. We go out of the Champions League, lower in the Premier League, and the history is all different. The fact they were brave enough to change the manager mid-tournament, and I think, I might be mistaken, I think for the first time ever, mid-tournament, for Afcon at least, to change a manager.
That was,
it's unheard of.
Yes.
I think when they performed so badly, it did something. I think that manager was not with it. It wasn't with it. And it changed their direction. And essentially, I look at Afcon and I look at the top 7 teams that come in Afcon pretty much year in, year out. I know some teams have had a rocky phase, but those top 7 teams, they're too good compared to the rest of Afcon. The gap is too different. And it goes back to the second point you asked, how did Nigeria do well in group stage and just get to the final? And it comes to the fact that the gulf in quality, or just ability is just so large between those top 6 teams versus the rest of Afcon, which then is really just always a competition between those top boys. And Ivory Coast are one of those top boys. And when they don't do that well in a competition like Afcon, yes, that's the same. Goes back to my point, Nigeria. The manager has to change drastically because you can't be that much better and be competing at that type of level. And that it goes to say, like, the football in Afcon just should show the ability of these players that are on display, and that's very, very important to me. And I don't think we've seen that enough. Not this year. Sometimes over the previous years, I've seen glimpses of players playing like their true selves. You know, Salah did it there with Egypt, and some other players from time to time. But not enough do we see these players playing to their level. We don't. Now, not in Afcon, and it needs to change. I don't know whether the competition needs to go to a 4-year structure, so it's more prideful, it's more impactful, it's more organized, it has more time to build up. It's not in the January period, which obviously has some different type of like mentality across like the players, where they are in the teams, where they are in the squads. I don't see why Afcon should not be the same time as, for example, the Gold Cup, for example, or the Asian Cup even, whereas it's every 4 years and it's that year with the Asian Cup. You know, I know that 1 year is the Euros, the other year can be the someone remind me of the Copa America, and then the other year can be the Afcon, and then the World Cup. And I think that it all suits everything so much more, and we get to see much more of a prideful and impactful tournament, as opposed to this thing that comes up every 2 years. We'll be back again in a year now. In we can start preparing in 20 months and then get back into it. But it's not good enough across the board.
So you'd rather play it every 4 years?
100,000,000%. Let it be more impactful, and like let it really be a tournament that's one to watch. And at the moment, I was seeing it in group chats. I was sat down there, put off the game obviously after 15 minutes because I'm not watching Nigeria get beat that much. And all I saw, like, notification group chat, just lambasting our team, or not our teams, like the quality of football and display. And that's not correct, because all these players are top players. So that should never happen. You can say what you want about anything else, but those players should play quality football, and they're there to entertain, and they should be entertaining. And that's why we put on our TVs, and that's why the fans go to see them.
I agree with you. Let's talk a little bit about Emes Faye, the Ivory Coast manager.
Okay.
What do you think of him?
I don't know much of his CV, to be honest. I don't know what
just based on what
his career, but the fact he stayed composed after they went 1-0 down in a cup final, to me, that alone, that's a huge positive trait to have. A lot of managers would panic and make subs. I was supporting Ivory Coast yesterday, and when I was watching, I wasn't concerned. When Nigeria when Nigeria scored, I wasn't worried. I was sat back and I was like, this is fine. Like, the way Ivory Coast have been playing, they don't need to change anything. They just need to continue doing what they're doing. The goals will come. And the manager, he saw the same thing. They didn't need to make changes. They waited, they were patient.
They were keeping the ball, they were passing the ball.
They stayed so composed. And a lot of teams we've seen you panic. You go down, especially in the cup final. You know, it's everything to these players. This is up there. This is the height. Like, it's equivalent of the World Cup for the European teams and so on, and Copa America and so on. So they stayed composed, and that, I feel like that's part of the manager as well. That's not just the people on the pitch. The manager could have easily panicked and said, "Oh no, 3 substitutes, change the shape, do this." He didn't. He was sat back, waited, and he believed in himself, what he saw and what he planned, and it came true. And I think he done great.
I think that comes from as well the way they were able to keep playing the way they were. I think it's because they realised that Nigeria weren't really up for it. And whereas Ivory Coast, they were up for it from minute one.
The body language, right?
Body language, everything.
Body language.
Ivory Coast walked into the final looking like they were.
They wanted to win.
They wanted. They wanted it more. And plus,
they were determined.
After they disappointed in the group stages, if you're going to get to the final like that, it takes some doing. If you're that bad in the group stages, I think when they see how Nigeria played, I think they were expecting a lot more from Nigeria. When they see Nigeria playing negative football, just trying to loop the ball up to Osimhen, not just a long ball, but proper upwards ball, and just having them drop like that. I think when they look at that, the manager looks at that, because they have the calling breaks every 50 minutes. I realised something in the calling breaks, where whenever a calling break happened, Nigeria, I remember when they went 1-0 up and the commentator said, "Oh, here's a chance for one final talk down of the tactics." they would pan to Nigeria first. And when you look at Ivory Coast, there wasn't many talking going on.
Yeah.
They all looked calm, relaxed, composed. But when you look
They
at
knew.
Nigeria, it's this, do this. Managers doing instructions there, and they're 1-0 up. Ivory Coast are composed. They're calm because they know and they knew the game plan they were perfecting was working because Nigeria weren't up for it and they weren't on their level on the day. And I think that's why the manager looked at it that's why they got the first goal. You know, the first goal helped them. I think if they didn't get the first goal came later, it would have been a lot harder for them. But I think him playing the same way, him showing, the durability to say, right, this tactic, the way we're playing now is working. So I'm not going to change because I know the way we're playing now, we can get a goal against this Nigeria team.
Yes.
And it showed yesterday.
Yeah.
Just to buttress this point, it's like we were 15, 16, everyone was there when you're in those games where you're just like, they've got nothing. And I think that's all you need to say. They've got nothing.
Yeah.
And we all know what that means.
They got nothing.
When you say that they've got, you look at them and you're like,
They got nothing.
really, they've got absolutely. There's no, watch out for that number 2 number. There's not. It's just, and you've been in those games where you might even be 1-0 down and you might be 8-0 up.
Yeah.
But you say they've got nothing, and nothing else needs to be said because everyone else in the team goes, yeah, that was actually too easy. Yeah, maybe someone should have won the header on the corner against Truce, but Truce, he's good in there. But like, they had nothing. And once you have nothing, it's just
Yeah,
a case
it's hard to
of
win a
just take time. We'll keep firing balls. How much longer can they dive? Put body in front of all. They know they have nothing. They were going to always score goals there.
Yeah.
I'm surprised it was 2-1. Very surprised.
So three goals in that final. 3 beautiful goals. The first goal was William Akon.
Yeah.
That was a powerful jump, powerful header. So what do you think of it?
I thought it was a very intelligent header because he's headed it at the floor,
Yeah.
and keepers, it's the worst nightmare for a keeper because the direction of the ball, you want to dive low, but he's headed it with the right power, so it's bounced off the floor and gone back up.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And top keepers struggle with those. It doesn't matter if it's a prime Petr Cech or if it's Onana. Like, do you know what I mean? You struggle with those. So I think excellent header. Like,
But do you think that header should have happened?
I agree with that. I think personally,
Yeah.
looking at every corner Nigeria had, they didn't have many, but when they did have a corner, Ivory Coast were doing zonal marking,
Yeah.
which is they'll put the smaller players on the taller players and put the taller players on the smaller players. But when you look at that Nigeria team, they've got players like Bassi, very tall, Ajay, very tall,
Yeah.
Trucy Kong, good in the air. So if you're doing zonal marking, I think Seri was on Trucy Kong for the corner,
Yes.
and Seri's about my height, like he's
Yeah.
tiny.
He used to play for Fulham, right?
He used to play for Fulham. And I love Seri, don't get me wrong. He was
He's a solid
he was really
guy.
good. When we got relegated that one season, for me, player of the season.
Seriously?
Always, every time he got the ball, you knew he could do something. Whether it's play it long, over the top through ball, he'd just keep it simple, like he did yesterday. He'll
Like
want the ball,
Makelele.
like Makelele. He want the ball to
Like
feet.
Makelele.
He want the ball to feet. He'll say, right, I'm here, give it to me. I'll pass it off like that. And that
He
was
keep
it.
it
Simple. He didn't need to take 1, 2, 3 touches. One touch, straight away. But I think when you got someone like Seri marking Trucy Kong for a corner, it's a big concern because we've seen Trucy Kong in the air for all of the teams he's played. Most of the goals in his career have been from headers.
Yeah.
Of course, and he scored a few penalties in the Afcon. But every time the ball got crossed in against Nigeria, he'd be there to head it away.
Yeah.
For a corner, he'd be there to win the header from a corner. It may not result in a goal, but you know if the ball gets in the air and it goes to Kong, he's winning it. So if Ivory Coast put someone like a Haller on him, more physical, can match him, not match him, but near enough the same height, whether the Surrey, it might have been a bit closer. Maybe it still would have gone in, but it would not have been that easy for him to win the header.
So what do you think of the first goal of Ivory Coast?
Ivory Coast first goal. Listen, my opinion is very, very simple. Look, all their goals, Ivory Coast's goals, both of them. Obviously, the second was lovelier than the first one.
Yeah.
Especially with Simon's surname again, the Ivory Coast winger, the B Ola.
Adingra.
When Adingra put left foot in, obviously for this one, a more beautiful goal than the first one, which again a bit more scrappy. But they could have scored any. Like,
Yeah.
like, we can spend time
But-
talking about it. We can spend talking about it, but like,
Yeah.
I think for me, those little details miss on the match. That
Yes.
was important.
Details, that's extremely
Yeah,
important. I think that first goal shouldn't happen. If the Nigerian central back was just, defender was just aware of what was happening.
Yeah.
Right? That was, we're talking about a small guy, 5'6", 5'7", 5'8", scoring from his head
The
in the box.
the first goal
It
was
shouldn't,
the,
it shouldn't
the
happen.
first goal was the cross. Right?
Yeah.
Yeah, it was close.
It shouldn't happen.
But my point is that you can say it shouldn't
That was a
happen.
poor defending, right?
I agree. You can say it was poor defending.
Yeah.
Well, those guys have been pulling off defensive gymnastics for like the last God knows how many minutes before that. They could have scored as many goals as one. Yeah, maybe it was one of the lapse in judgment.
Yeah.
In terms of, I can't remember what sense about mistake, but like, it didn't matter because, yes, that's the one they scored, but they could have scored 10, 20.
So, yes, I agree with you.
So, like,
but
I'm not going to hold blame
Yeah.
on one lapse judgment when you, like, we can look back and be like, okay, yeah, these guys have stuck their line on the body for so many more. So I just think I'm not going to put blame on any of those goals. That match was lost in the first
30 minutes, yeah.
15
Yeah.
minutes.
I agree with
It
you.
was gone.
First 30 minutes, the game was over.
The game was over. It
Yeah, the game
could
was
have
over.
come with. I remember when the centre back got it, looked up, took a shot, and didn't even strike it that hard. Just said, "Let me
I
try
just
and
couldn't
place it in the
recognize
corner."
those guys.
He just tried to place it. The centre back tried to place it in the left corner from 50 yards out.
Yeah.
He almost went in.
It's a good shot. I know what you're talking about. It's a good shot.
He just sidestepped it 50.
That was a big disappointment. I was disappointed watching that game because I had a lot of expectation on the Nigerian team. But it's football.
Did you watch the semi-finals?
Yes, I did.
And you had expectations after that game?
Yes, I remember Nigerian play against Ivory Coast on a group stage.
Yeah.
So I thought, okay, maybe, right? On the paper they look better. They have a better team on paper.
Yeah.
Yes.
I thought, okay, maybe they would. But after 30 minutes, I gave up. I thought, listen, it won't happen tonight. It's Ivory Coast because of the desire, the determination.
They were hungry.
They were hungry.
Yeah.
They wanted to win.
But wait.
You know.
I
And-
don't agree with the hunger.
They-
The hunger means there
they
was
were.
a battle. No, the hunger means there was a battle. Hear me out, right? It's not one of those games we can say it was a classic Patrick Vieira, Roy Keane scramble where Patrick Vieira won today because he was hungry, he wanted it more. That wasn't that. That was a sheer like rollover, an absolute annihilation in terms of football quality and ability, just passing the ball around.
Yeah.
That's not
Yeah.
hunger. That is just coming there and playing the football,
Yeah.
right? If I stay there, like obviously some of the defensive headers, as you clearly said earlier, I saw those defenders really like making sure they were physical with Osimhen
Yeah.
and getting it. Like,
Yeah.
but those, is that hunger? Yeah, maybe. But there was not enough of 50-50s or Nigeria being in it enough for me to say Ivory Coast was hungry.
At the same time, when you say there's not enough 50-50s, you can say that is hunger, because if Nigeria aren't putting their bodies on the line for the 50-50, it's proven they don't really want it as much as Ivory Coast do. Like
Nigeria
Ivory
were
Coast,
close to the ball.
right? But every time the ball was in no man's land, Ivory Coast were the first straight away. It was 5 seconds they had the ball back. If Nigeria aren't doing that, they're not up for it.
Yeah.
That means that means they want it.
There's something missing, right?
There's something missing. Yeah.
I have to just counter your point there. It's like I don't think like obviously Ivory Coast were, you can say, relatively more hungry for it on that day.
Yeah.
But my point is, Nigerians had a full belly. They didn't even care to be hungry. They didn't even bring it to the table. That they didn't even. It wasn't like Ivory Coast were more. Ivory Coast
Yeah.
were just like, okay, we're here to play football, right?
Yeah.
I wish any other team had turned up that day so we could really see how hungry Ivory Coast were. But Ivory Coast were strolling.
Yeah.
They were there, as I said, shifting the ball from left to right through Surrey, passing your centre back, have a 50-yard pop at the. Again, when that starts happening, it just shows that like they don't rate you. I look at big leaders, centre midfielders, like it would be in that team.
Yeah.
And I've said that like, I know Ola had a like disastrous game against and Anandaganda was like really good, but it would be and that centre mid, the centre midfield partnership was just not good enough on that day. Never got on the ball, never held it for more than a couple of passes. That can't happen.
But that's not the way he plays, right? He doesn't hold the ball. He passes the ball.
But he's not done that either.
Yeah, but I think that also comes down to the fact that this is down to the manager. I think he played in the final, especially with Nigeria. You look at I don't remember who the other midfielder was, but with Iwobi, I'm a Fulham fan, and I've seen how he plays for Fulham. He likes to be on the ball and take one touch and then pass it off and then make the runs in
That's
behind.
the way he plays football.
That's the way he plays. When the manager picked, I saw the team sheet. He picked two similar midfielders that do exactly the same thing. It's never going to work. You have to have, if you're going to play two midfielders, one of them has to sit and protect that back line, and the other one can be progressive, getting the ball. If they're both doing the same thing and they both want the ball, give me the ball, I'll pass it off. It's never ever going to work. You look at Ivory Coast yesterday. You had Sangare, Seri, and then Kessie. Sangare would be sitting there by himself, and if Sangare wanted to go forward, Seri would do it. If Seri wanted to go forward, Kessie would do it.
Yeah.
With Nigeria, every time they went forward, both of them would be like that, and so it's just a back line like this, which is why I also think that Adingra made Aina look like an easy player to play against.
Yeah.
He's not an easy player to play against, but he made him look so weak because there's no one supporting him. He has to do everything by himself. We look at the Ivory Coast fullbacks though, like Serge Aurier, and I don't know who they play left back, but especially Aurier. The amount of times he went down that right hand side.
Yeah, it's a forward guy, right?
Forward. He likes to do it.
He keeps going.
That should be that should be
Yeah.
restricted down.
Oh yes.
Before the game even
You have
kicks
to
off.
cancel it somewhere.
You should know, right?
Yeah.
These players here, Aurier likes to go forward.
Yeah.
And,
Seri likes to get the ball, dictate play. Sangare likes to sit in front of the defence. What Ivory Coast did, they saw how Iwobi wanted to play, how the other midfielder wanted to play, and how Aina wanted to play, and go, right, if we just do this, it's going to work. Because if they play the way we think they're going to play, we've got them. And they did exactly that. They played into Ivory Coast's hands by not changing anything. And I think when they got the first goal came from a corner.
Yeah.
It came from a mistake by Ivory Coast. It wasn't.
That's
it wasn't.
basic. That's
it
more
wa-
fundamental.
It basic. It wasn't a
No.
bit of Nigeria played good football to win the corner. It was an Ivory Coast mistake.
From nowhere.
They got the ball back, lost the ball straight away, and they had to kick it out for a corner. They scored from it. When you do that, even if you go 1-0 up, you have to realise, as a manager, you have to say this: if it's not working, I need to change it. When he brought off Iwobi, instead of bringing on a midfielder that does something different to the other one, he just brought on someone that plays the exact same as Alex Iwobi did. So they're playing the same way with different players. It's never going to work.
It's actually so ridiculous. Like I think like it's nice hearing like everyone else's feedback and seeing that everyone else saw the same game or a similar game. But again, I still think we're still giving that Nigerian team more credit than is due the other day by saying that they played into their hands. They didn't play. And that's what I'm always going to go down to. They didn't play. I did not see one person do something that you learn in any sort of under 15, under 16 level of just, okay, let's drop a shoulder and show for the run, or like do something like that's resembling football basics on that day. And I think that for me was, as you said already, Amal, you said, look, what you watched there was just really, really beyond and below expectation.
I think so.
It was really poor.
Yeah.
As you said,
they could have done better.
Absolutely.
Well, definitely.
I think if they played some football on that day, would have seen a real game.
Yes.
And really enjoyed it. I think someone like Kessie, I know Kessie scored the goal, as you said, with that header. I remember clearly, but Kessie is again a player I really like watching and the work he does in midfield. He didn't even have to. He wasn't playing. He was like a striker that game. Yeah. He wasn't bothered. He said he looked at the midfielder and he was like, well, Sherry and most of the midfielders, Sangare. They said these guys are not. They're not doing anything. I mean, Sherry's at that 6-year-old man.
It was poor. So, let's talk a little bit about the winning goal. That was the goal, right?
Yeah.
That was powerful. I mean, from the winger to the cross. The way. Do you think Afcon could have done something a little bit different to defend that ball?
I think he could have.
Or Sebastian was just smarter than him.
I think when you look at when you watch the goal back, maybe you could say Ikon could have done or could have reacted quicker.
Yeah.
He should have seen Haller make the run.
Yeah.
But at the same time with Haller, he saw how the ball was going in. The ball, for me, in my opinion, the ball isn't a great ball. It's it's an okay ball. It
Yes.
should be. It's a ball that
But
someone
at the same
should be.
time, as a defender,
You should be clearing it.
Yes.
Yeah, you have to anticipate that. And I don't think Nigeria defenders did. I think with Ikong, when the ball came in, the angle of the ball as well, I think Nigeria defenders saw that and went, okay, well, it's not going to get anywhere near danger. It's not going to go above us. It's not going to go near the keeper, so he can come and collect it, maybe make a mistake. The ball was here. Like it was on the byline.
Yeah.
The ball barely travelled.
Yeah.
But you look at Haller. Haller ran. I think he ran from behind Bassi in front of Ikong and just got a foot to it. That's down to, in my opinion anyway.
The desire.
That's desire.
You want it more.
That is what a top striker does.
Yes.
He anticipates the movement. He anticipates the ball.
It's the instinct.
Instinct as well. He sees the ball there and he goes, right, if I can just get anything on it, it's a goal.
Yeah.
Because no one is focusing. They're all paying attention to, right, if the ball goes above our heads, it's a danger. But because the ball didn't really, it was flat basically. It wasn't on the floor, but it was mid height. So like, it's difficult to clear away. Even you have to clear it because you have to adjust to clear it. And B, if a striker gets a ball, a foot or a head on that, or a knee maybe even, and gets it on target, if the keeper and the defenders in the box aren't paying attention properly, it's always going to end up in a goal.
But I think his body shape wasn't right as well. Ikon's body shape.
Yeah.
Again,
You know,
I like
at this level, you have to. Is how old is he? 30, right? He's 30 years of age.
So, yeah.
He has a lot of experience, and I think at this stage of the competition and with his experience, he should have been able to deal with that ball.
And, anticipate well. But at the same time,
And there were 10 minutes just before the end of the game.
At the same time, though, like we can say that with all different types of defenders, it could be a prime Pepe or a prime Sergio Ramos. If the ball came,
That's
came
not
in,
reference, right?
not a reference. I'm not comparing them to them. But if the ball came in like that to them, they're not doing anything different to what Ikong did because they're not expecting. Like when they see that ball, when I saw that ball going, I was like, okay, well, it's
But
clearance.
Ramos would have killed him.
Yeah, but I don't.
Ramos.
Yeah, but I think it's with Ramos.
Sergio would have killed
with
him.
Ramos.
I don't actually agree with you. I'm not like Sergio would have been gone 10 minutes before that.
We've got a red card.
If Sergio was playing in the game, where his team were playing that poor, Sergio would have run up the pitch
and kick someone.
Whether his own team or the other team. So like I think like we can sit here and, as you said, keep going to the facts, try and find do the fine details. How many times did Trace, for example, he scored the goal? For example, how many goal line clearances did we see, or how many important blocks did we see, or good defensive headers? There was bound to be an error when there's that many attacks on any defender. No
You're
matter
going to make a
Sergio
mistake.
Ramos,
You're going to slip up.
Thiago Silva is prime. No matter who it is, if there's that much of a peppering on your goal, I don't care who you are. Like obviously. Back to what you said about the hunger. Actually, that was definitely like some sort of hunger and like thing.
Thank you.
But that ball, I like the ball. I think I played in because to me, I didn't even know until they showed the highlights. It hit Hala, it hit Truth. It could have hit anyone.
Yeah.
My point is, they were going to do that 50 more times. If that one didn't go in, they were going to whip that ball 50 more times in the next 10-15 minutes, and one was going to go in. Or two was going to go in, or three was going to go in. I think that's my point here. It's like, I can't microanalyze Nigeria's fault in defending because it wasn't there that we had.
It wasn't there, Simon Adingra was the man of the match. Do you think he deserves it?
I disagree.
Sorry definitely deserves it for me because of the way he pinned the entire team down. Well, fortunately, and I hate to say it, it's why strikers are always nominated more for Ballon d'Ors and wingers and forwards. Simon was the one who was causing excitement in the game, and naturally, to anybody who's watching and being entertained by football, I think what he was doing was definitely very threatening and nice to watch. But if you're someone who's calm and collected and watches football a lot, you know that Sari literally just put a pin there and just said, okay, all of you, stay back there. And that's what he did. And not flashy, but probably to most people.
Before we go, William Ekong was the player of the tournament. What do you think of that? Do you agree? Disagree?
I didn't watch enough of the tournament to have a say on that.
I'll say something. I watched.
You watched a lot of games.
I watched the whole tournament. For me, Ronan Williams, the South Africa goalkeeper. Easily.
It was a keeper of the tournament.
Easily the keeper of the tournament.
Yeah.
Easy player of the tournament.
Yeah.
Because of him,
Yes.
South Africa got that far. I think was it
Yeah.
penalty shootout? I think he saved 4 penalties
Yeah.
in the penalty shootout. It's not just luck.
Yeah.
That it takes skill to do
Yes.
that. Obviously,
It does.
some of it's luck, but to dive the right way 4 times, to save 4 penalties, I think they took 6 and he saved 4 of them. That's luck. That's
Yeah.
not luck. Sorry, that's class.
Yeah.
That takes a good keeper. And overall, even without the penalties, look at the 90 minutes, the saves he made. I remember he made a save against Nigeria to take it to penalties. They went through on goal. He made an important save to keep it at 1-1 in the group stages. He made an important save to send them into the knockout stages. For me, easily, I'm glad he got goalkeeper of the tournament because he deserved it.
I think he deserves it.
But for me, he deserved player of the tournament for me.
He was
amazing.
just a player that South Africa needed.
Yeah, and he was their leader as well.
Yeah, he was our
Every
leader.
time they needed
Yeah.
someone to
He was right
to
there.
get back,
Yeah.
he was there to help them. And I
Yeah,
think
he was a solid guy.
that's why
I like
that's why I
his
think he
energy.
deserves to play at the top.
Thank you so much, yeah. Right, Mike suggested that we should be playing the African Cup of Nations every 4 years. But the question is, what do you think, guys? Thank you so much for our guests for coming. Thank you to Sanzen for hosting us, and thank you so much for watching. And if you haven't done it yet, please don't forget to like, share, comment, and more importantly, subscribe to our channel for more content like this. Thank you.